Reverse innovation is fundamentally about a product or an idea first taking root in, say, a developing country, India perhaps, or Brazil, and it's specifically designed to solve a unique local challenge there. The crucial part, though, is that this innovation then proves valuable and gets adopted in wealthier nations. Think the US or Japan.
So the flow isn't north to south.
It's south to north, yeah.
And this isn't just some academic theory, is it?
Not at all. The term really gained traction thanks to people like Vijay Govindarjan, Chris Trimble, and Jeffrey Immelt at GE. They really shone a light on this shift.
What's their core definition? How did they frame it?
Well, what's particularly insightful is their definition. Innovation developed in emerging markets and then exported back to developed markets. Simple but powerful. It highlights a fundamental break from that traditional globalization model.
Globalization being?
And where Western companies create a core product and then just make sort of superficial tweaks for less affluent markets.
Right. Change the color, maybe simplify a feature slightly.
Exactly. Reverse innovation is about a completely different starting point.
Okay, so what's the spark then? What conditions in these emerging economies are actually driving this kind of innovation? Why there?
If you look at the bigger picture, it often comes down to the very specific and sometimes intense constraints you find in many developing countries. Think about things like inconsistent infrastructure, maybe unreliable power,
Yeah.
significantly lower average incomes, definitely, and the challenges of just reaching dispersed rural populations.
So companies operating there just can't rely on the expensive high-tech stuff designed for, say, London or New York.
They really can't. A sophisticated energy-guzzling medical scanner isn't much use in a clinic where the power cuts out several times a day.
Makes total sense. So it's almost necessity forcing a different kind of invention.
Absolutely. Having to solve for these very real limitations forces a remarkable degree of creativity. Resourcefulness, too. The solutions that come out of that, they have to be frugal, extremely cost-effective. They need to be incredibly robust, reliable, to withstand tougher conditions.
Built to last.
Exactly. And above all, they have to be highly functional. Deliver the core benefit without all the extra bells and whistles, maybe.
And the fascinating part is...
The fascinating part is that these very qualities, affordability, durability, essential functionality, can actually be incredibly attractive, even back in developed nations.
Okay, I can see that.
Think about the constant drive to reduce healthcare costs in the U.S., for example.
Right, or maybe portable equipment for emergency responders.
Precisely, or disaster relief. Those qualities become universally valuable. Constraints drive creativity that turns out to be useful everywhere.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Can you walk us through a really clear, real-world example of this reverse innovation in action?
A classic one is GE Healthcare in India.
Okay.
Initially, they tried the standard approach. Market their advanced, expensive ECG and ultrasound machines there, but they quickly realized these were, well, financially out of reach for most people and often just impractical for the conditions.
Like the power issue you mentioned.
Exactly. So they had to fundamentally rethink. They developed a completely new ECG machine. This one was battery-powered, highly portable, and specifically engineered for the challenges of the Indian environment.
So tackling unreliable electricity, the need to transport it to remote villages, all of that.
And the cost difference must have been huge.
Oh, absolutely. This new machine cost around, I think it was 35,000 rupees compared to maybe 2 lakhs, so 200,000 rupees for their traditional machines. A massive reduction.
Yeah.
But here's the reverse part. This same affordable, portable, rugged ECG machine later found a significant market back in developed countries.
Really? Where?
Emergency medical services EMTs in the US and Europe started using it. Why? Because it was easy to transport, reliable in critical situations.
That's it. That's reverse innovation right there. In its purest form, yeah.
So it wasn't just about making a cheaper version of what they already had. It sounds like it involved a completely different design philosophy, driven by those local constraints.
Exactly right. Reverse innovation goes beyond simple cost cutting. It's not just, frugal innovation, if that term just means stripping features out. It's about reimagining a product from the ground up, designing it for a different reality.
Which must require a deep understanding of that local context.
Absolutely. And a willingness to question your basic assumptions about what a product even needs to be. This often requires a big shift in corporate culture, too, moving away from that not invented here attitude in the home office.
Getting the headquarters team to buy into ideas from the field.
Yes, and fostering genuine collaboration, real partnership. The long-term success really hinges on that cultural transformation, I think.
And GE's response wasn't just about the product itself. They shifted their structure too, didn't they? You mentioned that.
They did. They realized that to truly innovate for the Indian market, they needed more than just a product redesign. So they made a pretty big strategic move, relocating significant engineering, R&D, even some decision-making authority to India.
Giving the local teams real autonomy.
Exactly, empowering them to really understand and design for local needs. That signals a much deeper commitment than just adapting something.
That's a major step for a global giant. Are there other examples, other big companies taking this kind of approach?
Oh, definitely. Harman International is another good one.
The audio company.
Yeah, the premium audio brand. Their main business was high-end systems, especially for luxury cars. But they saw they needed new growth beyond just that top tier.
So they look to emerging markets.
They did. They started something called Project Saras in India and China. The goal was ambitious. Develop modular infotainment systems, but at a cost that was just 1/3 of their existing ones.
1/3. I bet there was some pushback internally on that.
Oh, for sure. There was definitely internal resistance, concerns about lowering costs so drastically, maybe impacting the premium brand image.
Understandable. But did it work?
It did. By 2012, these new lower-cost systems were actually accounting for a huge chunk, like 40% of Harman's new business.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah. And proving they had broader appeal. Japanese car manufacturers started adopting these systems for their mid-range vehicles, not just emerging market cars.
So innovations born out of needs in India and China found a place in more established economies too. That really drives the point home. How significant is this whole reverse innovation trend in today's global economy? Is it niche or is it becoming mainstream?
I'd say its significance has only grown. I mean, emerging markets have changed dramatically. They aren't just consumers anymore. They're crucial centers of demand, yes, but also, importantly, of innovation itself.
And at the same time,
At the same time, you've got developed markets facing their own pressures, growing cost issues in healthcare, education, you name it. Plus, changing demographics that mean we need more affordable, accessible solutions.
so it's almost like the needs are starting to converge in some areas. What's needed in Mumbai might also be needed, maybe in a different way, in Michigan.
Precisely. And global companies are increasingly recognizing this. They have to. We're seeing a real shift in their R&D strategies, trying to actively encourage this two-way flow of innovation. It's not just top-down anymore.
So innovations developed over there can scale globally.
Absolutely. Especially cost-effective solutions in big sectors like healthcare, agriculture, education. They have huge potential for global scalability. Think about mobile banking, M-Pesa in Kenya, right? Those ideas originated there and are now influencing financial inclusion efforts everywhere.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Or telemedicine solutions pioneered in rural India. People are looking at those models now to improve healthcare access in underserved parts of, say, the US or Europe.
So it's moving beyond being just a clever strategy. It sounds more like
Right.
like a fundamental requirement for businesses wanting long-term success.
I think so, especially now. In a post-pandemic world, with this huge focus on sustainability, resource efficiency, reverse innovation is becoming a strategic imperative. It lines up perfectly with key trends like frugal engineering, doing more with less,
Right.
and human-centered design, really focusing on user needs in diverse places.
Yeah.
And also the broader democratization of innovation,
Democratization meaning
the idea that groundbreaking ideas can come from anywhere, from anyone, not just from R&D labs in rich countries.
this makes me wonder about the term reverse itself. You mentioned the flow is becoming more multi-directional. Does reverse still fit?
That's a really important point. The term reverse does kind of imply that the default direction is rich to poor, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sets up an expectation.
But as we've been discussing, the reality is getting much more complex. It's characterized by these multi-directional flows of ingenuity. So maybe the term itself is starting to feel a bit limiting, maybe even outdated.
So what's the alternative? Are people talking about different ways to phrase it?
Some are arguing for a shift towards terms like maybe just global innovation, something that better represents this interconnected, fluid landscape. It would remove those built-in assumptions about origin or direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle, but I think it's a significant point about how we see things evolving.
Okay, so the core message here, the big takeaway, is that the source of truly impactful innovation is becoming way more diverse. And like we said at the start, maybe unexpected, it's definitely not a one-way street anymore.
Exactly. Think back to that battery-powered ECG designed in Bihar, right? meeting specific local needs there.
Or the cheaper car infotainment system from Project Sarah's in Bangalore.
Yeah, those are real, tangible examples of this fundamental shift. Innovation can, and absolutely does, arise from anywhere, often driven by local challenges that, surprisingly, hold solutions with global relevance.
This deep dive has certainly challenged some of my own assumptions. It really makes you think about where the next game-changing ideas will pop up. Maybe we all need to broaden our horizons a bit when we're looking for future innovation hubs.
And that leads to a fascinating question for you, listening right now. What preconceived notions might you hold about where the next big innovations will come from? Maybe exploring global innovation trends, looking beyond those traditional centers, will reveal some truly surprising possibilities for the future.